Hi, everybody. So today we're getting through 2 exit tickets. It is very, very important for you to do these 2 exit tickets because I will not touch upon them again. I will send them to you and you will complete them. So it's going to be about 2 cases. We're going to discuss the Scottsboro boys case through a video, and then we're going to discuss Claudette Colvin's case. And we're going to describe the 2 effects of failures within the U.S. criminal justice system. This whole thing is 3 to 4 complete sentences. So we're going to summarize what happened to Scottsboro boys. We're going to summarize what happened to Claudette Colvin's case. And we're going to talk about the criminal justice system at that time. So let's go on right now and share this Scottsboro boy case. I'm going to show you a 6-minute video. Hold on one second. I'm just going to share the sound and we're going to watch this.
The Scottsboro Boys case in 1931 was one of America's greatest tragedies. The case involved 9 African-American youths who were arrested in Scottsboro, Alabama in 1931. According to ABC's American History database, this case attracted national and international controversy because it demonstrated the blatant inequities and racial discrimination operating in the Southern criminal justice system.
You have folks riding the rails looking for work just because they can't afford to, I'll go find this job here. So they're just hopping on a train and riding in, trying to find work wherever they can find work. But what happens in the Scottsboro case is you have 9 black teenagers, and some of them get in a fight on the train with a couple of white guys. The train stops in Scottsboro, because this fight has broken out. As they're getting off the train, as the sheriff's folks are there, the white guys get off, the black guys get off, and then 2 white women get off. And the townsfolk are looking around going, whoa. And the white women, because you've got black guys and white women in Alabama in the early 1930s, I believe 1932. It's like, whoa. And the women, Victoria Price and Ruby Bates, Yale rape.
Clarence Norris, Charlie Weems, Haywood Patterson, Olin Montgomery, Ozzie Powell, Rollie Robertson, Eugene Williamson, Andy Wright, and Roy Wright were arrested and tried in April 1931 due to Victoria Price and Ruby Bates' accusation of rape for illegal boarding on a freight train.
According to ABC's American History database, the 9 defendants received inadequate defense from 2 volunteer lawyers and were convicted by an all-white jury on the basis of extremely weak evidence. Evidence such as proof to whether the men raped the women. When Dr. R.R. Bridges and Dr. Marvin Lynch examined the 2 girls, they found no evidence of a rape occurring.
According to the PBS's timeline on the Scottsboro Boys trial case, on April 6th and 7th, Clarence Norris and Charlie Weems are tried and convicted and sentenced to death. On April 7th to 8th, Haywood Patterson is tried, convicted, and sentenced to death. On April 8th to 9th, Olin Montgomery, Ozzie Powell, Willie Robertson, Eugene Williams, and Andy Wright are tried, convicted, and sentenced to death. On April 9th, Roy Wright's trial ends in a hung jury when 11 jurors vote for a death sentence and 1 vote for life imprisonment because Wright is 13 years old at that age.
The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, also known as the NAACP, reacted slowly to the case because of their doubts about the defendants' innocence. But they soon began to court the defendants, their parents, and public opinion for the right to represent the young men in an appeal and raise money for their defense. However, in 1932, the NAACP withdraws from the Scottsboro Boys case. People from the North were organizing protests and marches to stop the innocent boys in Scottsboro from being hanged for doing a crime they never committed.
The International Labor Defense, also known as ILD, appealed the case before the Alabama Supreme Court, but then turned to the U.S. Supreme Court in November 1932. The case overrode Alabama's decisions and granted new trials to all of the defendants. According to the Encyclopedia of Alabama, the ruling established a key precedent for enforcing African Americans' rights to adequate counsel under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment.
Although the Scottsboro boys were sentenced to death and forced to spend their lives in jail, the Scottsboro attorneys seemed racially biased, so the Supreme Court gave the boys an opportunity to retrial. This gave the boys a chance to prove their innocence and finally get out of jail.
President Franklin Delano Roosevelt was involved in the Scottsboro boys case by urging the Alabama governor to release the men. However, the Alabama governor declined to release the men.
After the trial of Norris versus Alabama, Alabama finally comes into an agreement in 1937, 7 years after the incident had occurred, to release Montgomery, Robertson, Williams, and Roy Wright. The remaining 5 received prison sentences with the expectation of quick parole.
According to ABC's American History Database, 4 of the men were eventually paroled, the last, Andy Wright, finally gaining freedom in 1950. Patterson would escape from prison and be charged with murder in a barroom brawl. He died of cancer in prison in 1952. In 1976, Norris was pardoned by Alabama Governor George Wallace, and in 1989, he was the last of the Scottsboro boys to die.
So imagine again, basically living in the shadows for almost 40, 50 years because of something that never happened, the charge of rape. I mean, Scottsboro speaks to so much in the criminal justice system. But what you also get in this is a series of Supreme Court decisions dealing with the right to competent counsel. Thank God. And the right to have a jury that is really truly a jury of your peers. Now, that is some amazing jurisprudence that is coming out of this case of horrific, egregious, unjust, justifiable. I have no more words.
All right, so we're going to stop it here. We're going to go back to the Scottsboro boy case and just describe what it is. So this is what we're going to start with. We're going to start with in watching the film or the video on the Scottsboro boys case. We learn that the boys were on a train with 2 white women, and the white women accused the boys, really they're young men, well, 13 young men of rape. They went to court and were found guilty and were not given a fair trial. All right. Now you need to be able to tell me why it wasn't a fair trial. So I'm going to write that in parentheses. Tell me why it was not fair. You can rewind this video to watch it again if you need. This is super important. All right, now we're going to talk about Claudette Colvin and the justice system there. Was she treated fairly as well? So we're going to watch Claudette Colvin's case. Nope, I won't do that. I want to do court I'll watch this one.
Jim Crow-era Alabama is about to witness a brave act of obstruction. 15 years old and pregnant, Claudette Colvin denies her bus seat to a white woman and is arrested for her transgression. Sound familiar? Colvin's defiant act occurs 9 months prior to the famous scene promulgated by Rosa Parks, who later becomes a ubiquitous figure in the civil rights movement. By invoking her constitutional rights, Colvin quietly sets the stage for the marches and fight for racial equality, culminating with the ending of segregation in 1965. By admission of the civil rights leaders, Colvin's age, pregnancy, and dark hue of her skin does not fit the character profile desired for the movement, believing her story detracts from the cause. However, Colvin will later gain satisfaction when the U.S. Supreme Court upholds the Brown v. Gale verdict, thus ending bus segregation in Alabama permanently.
Okay, so that's just to help remind me and remind you of what happened in the case with her. And so she was convicted, or she was arrested because blank, you're going to fill that out. And she was arrested unfairly. Because it actually wasn't her rights to stay on that bus. She didn't have to sit where they told her. They were holding up the Jim Crow laws and not the actual laws of the United States. She was following the laws, and the cops were not following the law. So what do we think about the justice system? I want you to write, in your own words, in the early to mid-1900s, we see that the justice system, both court and cops, treated Black people. How did they treat Black people? And tell me why. Okay, that's it. You're gonna pause here to finish this. Make sure you copy this down. Make sure you fill in the blanks. Make sure you tell me why here. Good luck. I'm taking 10 seconds and moving on to this next one. Make sure you pause. All right, the next one we're gonna do today is annotate the text. Let's see here. I feel like I did this the other day. Let's just double check. I recorded this late, sorry. Whew. Oh, I did this one the other day, huh? All right, this is Jean Haidt, champion of rural education rights. We are going to annotate just statements throughout the text, and we're going to identify words that reveal how the author feels about the topic. What's the topic? I don't know. Does it say? Oh, education rights. Ooh, excuse me. All right. As her middle school graduation neared, Jean Haidt had an unappealing choice set before her. She could enroll in a vocational school in the city of Shanghai, where she lived with her family for over a decade, or she could return to her ancestral home in the rural Jiangxi province to attend high school there. Jean was not happy with her choices. She wanted to take the high school entrance exam in Shanghai and attend school in the city where she had grown up. But an age-old Chinese policy called hukou prevented this from being an option for Jean. She didn't give up. However, instead, she became an educational activist. Jean had stood up for millions of Chinese children who have been bullied out of the education they deserve. So let's see. Okay, or just statements there. Let's keep going. So she's upset about not being able to go to the school she wants. Under the hukou system, China's population is, oh wait, we forgot to highlight. Make sure you guys highlight she was upset. Where is it? She was not happy. So make sure you highlight that. Oh, I can't highlight because I don't, excuse me, have edit access. Under the hukou system, Chinese population is divided into two groups: urban, city people, and rural, country people, residents. Jean's parents were registered as rural residents because they had lived in a rural province before moving to Shanghai to seek better job opportunities. They had their house there. That's where they paid taxes. That's where they must go to school. As a result, the Chinese government considered Jean's family to be members of the migrant workforce, even though they had lived as residents of the large city for almost 12 years. They did not have the same opportunities and privileges as a family whose household was registered in Shanghai. This is why Jean could not attend high school there. The city provided a free primary school education to migrants living in Shanghai, but it was not required to offer migrants a free secondary education as well. If Jean had enrolled in a technical school or moved back to the rural region where she was born, her future job prospects would have been severely limited. The well-funded high schools in Shanghai provided a better quality education than she would have received in a small town where educational standards are lower. So Jean decided to stand up for herself and demand the same right to education as her urban counterparts. So what is this all about? She wants to go to a school that she can't go to, right? So she wants what's called a choice in where she goes to school. Jean. Oh, is it not going to let me write for real? La. I'm going to move a text and make a text box. Jean wants school choice. Please copy that down. You can give it a hashtag. I'm going to keep moving. Keep it moving. Oh, I have to delete this, friends, because otherwise it shows up down here. All right. In May 2012, Jean started a blog in which she laid out her argument for equal education opportunities. Like-minded activists and local media correspondents learned of Jean's efforts and helped her gain attention as a national issue. Protesters rallied behind the young girl. They launched campaigns of support and held crowded demonstrations in front of the Shanghai Bureau of Education. So other people believed in this too, not just her. While these events brought attention to Jean's plight, they also made her family a larger target for those who disagreed with her messages. And some Shanghai residents formed a group known as the Shanghai Defense Alliance that began organizing counter-protests and making cruel remarks about Jean's family. They accused her father of tax evasion and called her family migrant locusts from another region. So they weren't very nice to her family after this all happened. These efforts to scare or embarrass, so this is another feeling word, we can highlight that, Jean into silence failed. She continued to call for equal education in China, penning editorials for equal education. That might be a good equal education. That might be a good hashtag. In China, penning editorials for Chinese newspapers and taking part in a wide variety of interviews and demonstration. As a result, the hukou policy has become a big part of the national debate in China. Okay, that's good. She's trying to make change, right? Public approval for the outdated law is steadily declining. Jean ultimately was not allowed to attend public high school in Shanghai like she wanted, but she didn't resign herself to a technical school or a rural school either. Instead, she received her high school education at home in Shanghai, where she continued to excel in her studies. 4 years later, after she began blogging in 2016, she was admitted to Purdue University in the United States of America in the state of Indiana. I think it's in Chicago. The Shanghai Municipal Education Commission cut off my path to high school, Jean told the Economic Observer. So I'll use my own strength to defeat this wreck of an education system. So what does she do? She rises to the occasion, right? She rises up. She ends up becoming really impressive, right? She goes to school. So she makes her own way. No, man, oh man. Let's try that again. makes it happen when prevented or when stopped from not being able to go to school. That's it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Make sure you annotated. We have 2 just statements. Make sure you annotated her feelings. Have a great one. Bye.